Hello and welcome to Views on News. I'm Jawad Tehami. There has been a warning that has been issued by one of the key commanders of the Afghan Taliban to the terrorists of Fitna al-Khawarij, and he has warned them against fighting the forces of Pakistan and also conducting the attacks in the name of jihad. He says, let me quote, as per their Amir's directives, it was not legitimate to fight any country, particularly Pakistan. Acting against the directives of the leadership of the state will be considered as fasad, unquote. Now, this is not the first time such a stern warning has been issued. We had in fact seen back in 2023 that the Afghan Supreme Leader, Habibullah Akhundzada, had labeled the cross-border attacks, including those in Pakistan, as haram or forbidden in Islam. Now, this particular latest warning comes as we saw there was an informal trilateral meeting among the foreign ministers of China, Pakistan, and the acting foreign minister of Afghan Taliban in Beijing on 21st of May. They had agreed to deepen Belt and Road Initiative cooperation and also extend China-Pakistan economic corridor to Afghanistan. We also saw Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Saeed, held a separate meeting with the acting Afghan Foreign Minister, and both discussed ways to work together to advance mutual interest in the domains of connectivity, security, trade, and transit. Also, back in April, we saw Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister, Mr. Saeed, going to Kabul for a day-long visit, and that marked the first time in 3 years the visit by any Pakistani Foreign Minister to Afghanistan. In the light of all these recent developments, we'll try to understand in today's program the current trajectory of this particular bilateral relationship between Pakistan and the Afghan interim authorities, and especially when the Pakistani authorities had repeatedly been sharing with the interim Afghan authorities the irrefutable evidence of the Afghan nationals' involvement in the resurgence of terrorism here in Pakistan, and also vis-a-vis Afghan Taliban's inability of carrying out any sort of a decisive or concrete action against the banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, the Fitna al-Khawarij, and other similar groups which were perpetrating heinous crimes of terrorism using Afghan soil in Pakistan. For all these, we are honored to be joined in the studio by Dr. ShafqatMunir, security analyst. Dr. Munir, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. And on the video link, we'll be joined by Mr. Hassan Khan, Afghan affairs expert. Mr. Hassan Khan, thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. On the phone line, we are honored to be joined by Mr. KamranYousaf, senior journalist. Mr. Yousaf, thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Let me begin the discussion with you, Mr. Yousaf. You wrote a very detailed story as to what had been the recent engagements when we talk about as far as the bilateral relationship between Pakistan and the interim Afghan authorities is concerned. We saw that informal trilateral mood also happening in Beijing, a separate meeting of the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Saeed with the acting Foreign Minister of interim Afghan authorities, Amir Khan Muttaqi. Now, looking at all these, this particular decree, this particular warning that seems very stern in its very tone by one of the key commanders, Saeed to the terrorists of Fitna al-Khawarij. What do you think, what has actually prompted him to issue such a warning?
I think the main thing is that both Pakistan and China, of course, that have been working quietly, urging Afghan government to change their policy towards all these militant groups. As you know, that this has been the major stumbling block in the relationship between Pakistan and Afghanistan, because Pakistan says that once we resolve this issue of cross-border terrorism, the presence of banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan and other groups that are posing threat to Pakistan as well as to China as well. So if that issue is resolved, then there is a huge potential between Pakistan and Afghanistan, and also with China to go for massive economic integration and other regional connectivity. And finally, it appears that because of multiple factors, as I said, that China was also playing a role and because of other geostrategic developments that are happening in the region, probably the Afghan authorities realized that it is time that they should change their policy. And this change actually happened, I think, when in late March, a Pakistani delegation led by Pakistan's Special Envoy Ambassador Sadiq visited Kabul. And during that visit, for the first time, Pakistani authorities, according to my sources, felt that there was a change in the approach of the Afghan Taliban's approach towards the TTP, and Pakistani side was given briefing regarding the steps that the Kabul administration had taken to address Pakistan's concerns. And one major action that they took so far is to tackle the Afghan nationals who were joining the TTP. We saw in recent attacks, and those who were facilitating Afghan nationals to be part of Band Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan. And I understand that several arrests were also made by Afghan authorities. And this particular decree that you were mentioning, previously also the Afghan Taliban chief issued such a decree, but probably for the first time that any influential or a senior Taliban leader publicly highlighting this. So this clearly shows that now Taliban is trying to address concerns of Pakistan as well as, of course, China, because don't forget that China also had concerns regarding the East Turkestan Islamic movement. The only difference is that China deals with these issues subtly, quietly, instead of making public statements. So these are the factors I believe played a part.
Right, Mr. Yousaf, I get your point well. There are a number of other points that you've talked in detail in that very story of yours regarding the crackdown on the Afghan nationals who have joined the Band Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan Fitna al-Khawarij or were planning to be the part of the group. And those Afghans who were trying to recruit their fellow nationals, they've been jailed and they've been proceeded against. For this particular action, what was the immediate motivation when the Taliban had been unable since their takeover of Kabul since August 2021? Since that time, Pakistan would be repeatedly asking them to fulfill their international obligation as per the Doha Accord, but they were not able to do that. Rather, there was a pattern of the denial on the part of the Afghan Taliban. But what led them to launch this particular crackdown against the Afghan nationals who were planning or were joining the Band Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan?
I think one, as you know, you were rightly pointing out that Pakistan from day one urging the Afghan Taliban authorities to deal with these groups, but publicly they were denying their presence on their soil, and privately, they expressed their inability and said that, look, if we take action against these groups, either they will join Daesh terrorist group or and then second, they always cite this example that these groups actually help us fighting against the U.S.-led foreign forces, so they are our guests. But I think what really changed or really compelled them to change their approach, I think the arrival of Trump at the White House, because before that, as you know, that under the humanitarian assistance the U.S. was providing, I think there are different figures under the UN shipments. They were getting $60 to $70 million every week. So despite sanctions, despite not getting any international recognition, those were enough, I think, injection of foreign reserves or foreign money that helped them to, navigate their economic challenges. But since Trump came in, he suspended all the foreign aid, also through the UN and other measures. And I think that really hurt the Taliban economy. Even you might be hearing reports that they were struggling to pay salaries to their employees and even their army. And then at the same time, I think Pakistani steps, because Pakistan also adopted a very tough line regarding sending back these Afghan refugees, also imposing certain restrictions on Afghan transit trade. So those steps were really compounding the problems of Afghans. And thirdly, I think when increasingly we saw during recent terrorist attacks that Afghans were involved, and there were evidence. In one instance we saw a son of a deputy governor of Afghan Taliban was involved in one of the terrorist attacks. So those evidence really compelled the Afghan Taliban authorities to really change their approach. And don't forget the role of China that played, because China, really was telling them that, look, that if you support these groups, ultimately you will pay the heavy price. But if you change your approach.
I get your point. Mr. Yousaf, now, regarding the role of China, we saw a trilateral informal mood happening in Beijing with the foreign ministers of both China and Pakistan in attendance, with the acting foreign minister of interim Afghan authorities. Also, they agreed to have the further cooperation, expand cooperation as far as the Belt and Road Initiative is concerned, the expansion of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor into Afghanistan. And also, you write in your story that the Chinese Foreign Ministry announced that Pakistan and Afghanistan expressed their willingness to upgrade their ties and in principle agree to exchange ambassadors. We also know for a fact that China happened to be the first country to send in their envoy to Kabul and accept a full-time Taliban envoy in Beijing. Now, looking at this particular aspect, that Pakistan and Afghanistan agreeing to upgrade their diplomatic ties and in principle agreeing to exchange ambassadors, is this particular option on the table for the Pakistani authorities? And what could be the possible in return or in reciprocation, what could be Pakistani authorities be expecting from the Afghan Taliban?
I think this is the incentive that Pakistan and China is really giving to the Taliban, that look, that if you cooperate with us, if you address our security concerns, what we can do, we can, of course, extend this China-Pakistan economic corridor to Afghanistan. There is already a proposal to build a motorway from from Peshawar to Kabul, and then, of course, the upgradation of diplomatic ties. Because if Pakistan really decides to upgrade their relationship, so this means that Afghan Taliban will get more closer to getting at least recognition from big regional countries. So that's a huge incentive for Afghan Taliban. And in return, as you were saying, that the only expectations that Pakistan has, and as also China, that they should not harbor any terrorist groups like Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan or Hafiz-ul Bahadur Group or East Turkestan Islamic Movement. So this is the simple, straightforward expectation that Pakistan has. So
a straightforward expectation as far as Pakistani perspective is concerned. Mr. KamranYousaf joining us on the phone line, senior journalist. Thank you very much for taking time out for Views on News tonight. Really bad. Mr. Hassan Khan, this particular stern warning, as it appears from its very tone, do you think this time around something practically is going to be different? Because we have seen back in 2023 a decree by the supreme leader, but we didn't see anything on practical front. But those terrorist attacks continue to happen with the use of Afghan soil by Fitna al-Khawarij.
Thank you very much. I think since 2023 and now this is 2025, so a lot of water has flown under the bridge, and there is a lot of, especially recently since March 2025, when Pakistan was hit by a number of terrorist attacks, especially the Banu cantonment attack, and the Jandola attack, and the Jafar Express attack, and the attack on the Haqqaniyas, etc. So Pakistan has taken this issue very robustly with the Afghan authorities. And now there a reciprocal basis. It happens on the reciprocal basis. Not only the Afghan Taliban, which has given assurances after a lot of pressures and arm twistings and what we call it threats from Pakistan, but also other incentives which Pakistan's offered them. I think they have been convinced that now it's the time to play ball with Pakistan instead of being in the opposite on the opposite side, or just keeping these terrorists, which will further, I think, jeopardize the peace inside Afghanistan. And there were no options for Taliban. The first thing I think which Pakistan has done, and Pakistan's special representative Saeed Khan, when he visited, it was on the 11th March and then the 15th March, I think. There were very good meetings, and they were very open heart, both opened their heart to each other. I think Pakistan, this assurance to the Taliban, because Taliban were, that they were having fears in their mind that Pakistan may be supporting the other groups, especially the NRF, and there people were visiting Pakistan's time and I think time and again, and Taliban were aware of it. Pakistan has given them assurance, and I think this is the first time Pakistan's Afghan policy has undergone, I think, a lot of change, a huge change, and that is Pakistan's will have only concerns with Kabul. Pakistan will never go to support men in the mountain, and I think this assurance has been given to Afghan Taliban. And second, Pakistan has, I think, make a reconciliation type thing between the Afghan Taliban. You are well aware of it. In March, up till March, there were a lot of reports of grouping in the Afghan Taliban, and even reports like Sirajuddin Haqqani not going to the office, the Mullah Yaqub was not going to the office, and there were a lot of these differences, and people were just expecting another internal war between the Afghan Taliban. So Pakistan's, I think, was instrumental in making a peace within the Taliban group and given them an assurance that, look, when that is the situation, definitely you will further weaken. And that will be a nightmare for Pakistan if there were internal wars inside Afghanistan again. So I think this assurance, when Afghan Taliban got that Pakistan is on their side, Pakistan will never support any other group against them. So they opened their heart to Pakistan, and especially when Deputy Prime Minister visited Afghanistan and he met with the Afghan Prime Minister Mullah Hassan. Mullah Hassan hardly met with the foreign dignitaries, and he spent more than an hour with the Sagdar. So at the moment, Pakistan is very close to both Kabul and Kandahar. Pakistan is just communicating with Kandahar the way it is communicating with Kabul. So I think now there is that level of trust has been restored by Pakistan, that Pakistans will never go against the Taliban or support any other group. It will definitely end in this patch up, the reconciliation within the Taliban. And that was done quite successfully. I think you know well that when Sadiq Khans came back to Pakistan, the next week, Siraj Haqqani, Mullah Yaqub, and Mullah Qayyum Zakir, etc., they just went to Kabul, they just went to Kandahar, and all the internal differences were just washed away. So I think this time the situation seems to be
Khan is
very
that the level of
serious
trust has been restored largely between Pakistan and the interim Afghan authorities. A number of other important points to be discussed with you. Let me once again proceed towards Dr. Munir. Dr. Munir, do you think this time this particular stern warning that's been issued by Saeed, is it going to be ignored on the similar pattern lines as that very decree by the Supreme Leader that was ignored? Or do you think this particular stern warning depicts some sort of a reset of the relations between Pakistan and the interim Afghan authorities?
I think if you compare the two statements, the previous one and the now from the commander, the language matters a lot, because that was a general kind of a thing, but now this is a very specific and in terms of the Islamic war kind of things, where you have to obey the Amarat and Sharia. So both have, on both count, they have declared that this is uncalled for. That's why this warning matter a lot. But there are three scenarios I would like to build around so that we can well understand this. One, Hassan Bhai has just talked about the internal dynamics. You remember during these programs we have been discussing this time and again, that there are internal rifts between the different Afghan Taliban groups.
Primarily between the Kandahar
faction and Kabul and other factions, and there were internal pressure goes within their network. The fighters, some were with them and some were threatening them. Now this internal dynamics, they have been resolved, and over the last 3 months and three weeks, they have regional dynamics also. Now the balance of power is different as compared to earlier, particularly after Pakistan-India war. So things are changing very drastically. And thirdly, the regional role, which we have always been discussing during these programs, that ultimately the Taliban regime have to listen to the regional forces, and primarily China's role is important in that. It's not only China, it's Central Asia, because if you look at the tour which Pakistani leadership has just last week gone for Turkey, for Iran, and Azerbaijan, and other Central Asian states. And Afghanistan is also part of the discussion, because ultimately development of this whole Karek region is stopped or halted because of the Afghan situation.
Right.
If situation in Afghanistan improves, then all these regional forces will be reconnected and things would move forward. The international bit is that, as already discussed by Kamran, also mentioned about it, that's the international dimension, Trump's policy, the aid cut. These are very important things. It's not only US has cut its aid, it's that European Union and Britain, they have also cut their aids, all kind of aids, 40 to 45%. This aid scenario is also impacting the fragile countries and fragile governments like Kabul regime. So these are few things which together is building a momentum within the factions in Afghanistan, in the region and internationally. And that impact, I think, if you look at the statement in the context of these dynamics, then we can understand that there is a serious thinking in Taliban regime now. That's why the commander made a statement.
Right. There is one thing that you already mentioned in your take, that those internal rifts have been overcome. So how quickly they have been overcome? What factors led to that very bridging of that particular rift between
the changing scenario, regional and global scenario? Because ultimately somebody was supporting them, and now if they feel that their supporter, for example the Indian influence, if that neutralizes on the thinking that if India could not defend themselves, how can they defend here them? Secondly, there were clear kind of efforts from China, because China has been, as they have supported them, they have their presence, the Chinese embassy working there. Similarly, now Russians are also thinking about that. Some of other countries are thinking that at least they should have a presence and engagement with Taliban. This would not have been possible if they would not have listened to the world and their demands.
This particular further
and that
engagement
actually pushed these factions to come together. Otherwise, they would have been pitching against each other.
Right. Mr. Hassan Khan, when we talk about, in a number of discussions, we've already discussed one very important aspect, that perhaps the Afghan Taliban were not taking a concrete and decisive action against Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan Fitna al-Khawarij just because of the fear of the revenge they could face after they carry out any sort of a practical action against the banned TTP. Now, in this particular report, Mr. Yousaf has also talked about there is a crackdown already underway on the Afghan nationals who had already joined the TTP or are planning to join TTP, and many of them have also been jailed or proceeded against, who were trying to recruit their fellow nationals for TTP. Do you think if that fear was actual as far as Afghan Taliban perspective is concerned, that is not going to happen in future if they continue to take such type of action against the banned TTP?
Look, Tehami, I think one is this, I think on the narrative sides, I think this is a huge victory for Pakistan and especially for Afghan Taliban. They come up boldly in the public, especially with this Saeed, who is the commander of Amir Hamza Military Academy, Kabul, and this is the only, I think, the major military academy, and he was addressing the graduate of the academy. Sorry. On the same day, Nida Muhammad Nadeem, he is a very known, I think, known to be very close to the Mullah Hebatullah Amir of Taliban. And the same day, he was in Herat and he was addressing the students there. And he repeated the same word, but in a different context. And he said that, look, Afghanistan now no more needs mujahideen. We need the people, the engineers, the doctors who serve the people, who build the country. So he said that that thing has been stopped and the Amir has given instructions. In 2023, Mullah Yaqub, his statement is also there in the media. If you look at it, he also said that when Amir has restricted you not to support any group using Afghan style fighting against the neighbor. So why you people are not following it? But this time, as you mentioned in the story published in Express Tribune, that Afghan Taliban has already initiated action, and yes, initiated action against those who are joining and who are going across the border and targeting the Pakistani. That is one thing. I think this now public pronouncement. It is not only the men who are joining the camps or the ranks of the TTP, but also any sort of support which you are extending to them will not be construed as Islamic as per the order of the Amir. So I think that is very important. And you look at the statement of Mufti Noor Wali, who is the head of the TTP. Abruptly, he came on screen and said that at the moment we don't need the persons, but we need moral and financial support from our Afghan brothers and sisters. And the same we also announced that we will be seeking support from even non-Muslims as we are fighting against Pakistan, a Muslim country. So I think the TTP has got the pressures. And there is another very important Mufti, Mufti Nadeem of the TTP, who come up in a video statement, and he challenged the Afghan Taliban for a debate, questioning them that the Amir instructions, the Amir worded is not necessary for jihad. So I think now a lot of debate has been going on, and this time these videos have gone viral in entire Afghanistan and are well received. So I think this time the situation is
Hassan Khan, one very quick understanding of yours regarding as to this possibility of Pakistan and Afghan Taliban deepening the diplomatic relations, and also, as per the Chinese Foreign Ministry, both have agreed to take in and send their ambassadors to the respective countries. China has already done so. If Pakistan follows the suit, what could be the potential areas in which Pakistan can get something in return?
Look, I think first thing, let me make it clear that it is not China which is pushing Pakistan and Afghanistan for it. It is
Quick short
Pakistan
break,
which is.
and we'll be resuming the discussion from here. I seek your pardon for the interjection over here. I'll have to go for a quick short break over here, and we'll resume the discussion from here. Welcome back to Views on News. In the studio, we are joined by Dr. ShafqatMunir, security analyst. Dr. Shafqat, more engagement with the Afghan Taliban. There has been a clear shift in what their understanding towards Pakistan has been, their actual approach, their practical actions as far as Pakistan's demand for them to fulfill the international obligation. Now, with the changing dynamics on a number of fronts, especially in this particular region, and also that very aid cut that you were of the view, their realization seems to have shifted considerably. More engagement with them right after the Kabul takeover. They'd been looking forward to have that international recognition. Pakistan categorically since that time had been stating that we won't take any decision alone. We'll be going as per what the international community would be taking a decision as far as that recognition is concerned. China happened to be the first country to send in their full-time envoy. They accepted Kabul's envoy in Beijing as well. Chinese Foreign Ministry now says that both Pakistan and Afghanistan have agreed to upgrade their diplomatic ties and also accept their ambassadors in each other's country. If that particular thing is followed, Pakistan follows the suit of China, what could be the possible aspects or dimensions related to that? Do we understand that sending in an ambassador would be some sort of recognition of the interim Afghan authorities, or would it be a step towards that?
I think this will be a right direction or a positive step towards reaching to the full diplomatic relation, which only sending invite doesn't mean full diplomatic relation, as Beijing has sent. And we are also working with them. That's not that we don't have any working relation with them, we have. It doesn't mean that we have formally recognized. Formal recognition is that when they come to the international rules of procedures and whatever they have been asked to do that, particularly on the rights of women, women education, many other counts, they have to accept the international obligation and convention on children, on many other things. If they are coming to that term, then certainly it would not be only Pakistan, other countries will follow the suit. But this is a good opportunity for Afghanistan, that China, Pakistan, Iran and other countries are thinking to start at least building more relation with them.
More engagement.
More engagement with them, and that's
thank
an
you very much for
opportunity
being
for
with
them.
us on the show tonight. We really appreciate that. Unfortunately, we are short of time. I'll have to end the show right over here. With that, we come to the end of today's episode. Till the next one, take good care of yourselves.